Join, wager, cash in, and get a $150 bonus. Sign up now at TVG.com.
As promised, it's time for your Kentucky Derby Regional Report. Rich Perloff and Matt Crothers in Los Angeles. Our first stop is Northern California, where today at Golden Gate Fields, they will run the Grade 3 El Camino Real Derby at 1 mile and an eighth on their Tapeta surface. And we want to bring in the Daily Racing Forum's Northern California correspondent, Chuck Dibdahl. Chuck, we were talking in the break.
Chuck.
It looks like a very, very well-matched race, not a lot of evident speed signed on, but you got a couple horses in here who just appear to be better on a synthetic racetrack. Let's start with Enterprising for Tom Proctor and Hall of Fame jockey Gary Stevens. What did you make of that second-place run in the California Derby?
That was one of those better-than-looked races. He didn't have trouble. I'm not saying he had trouble, but he ran a bang-up race for his first time on Tapeta. He caught a horse up here who is a pretty darn good horse, who is exit stage left, who has since been injured and is out. Exit stage left, dueled on the lead, and had enough left in the lane. Gary Stevens is his regular rider, and Gary will be here today to ride him. Last time when he was up here, he had Aaron Greider, and after the race, Aaron Greider raved about both of the colts who finished first and second, because he said down the lane they both laid it down and gave all they had, and he said today the other horse won. He says, but they both worked so hard at it. They
Right.
showed so much heart. There's no telling who will win the next one.
Yeah, and Stevens was in Florida, I think, that day to ride Mucho Macho Man, so he'll be back aboard Enterprising. And Gary's not only been the hottest rider, really, in the game over the last several months, he might be the smartest rider. He knows not a lot of pace in this race. This horse has tactical speed. Do you think Stevens might actually go right to the lead in this race?
I think looking at this race, it's interesting. There's only two horses in here who have ever early in a race, and that's Dance with Fate, who went wire to wire as a maiden, and then this horse Craftsman from Ireland, who's only made one start here. He had been on the lead a couple times in his races over in Ireland. Of course, we know European speed and American speed are not necessarily the same thing. But yeah, I see Enterprising. This is going to be a jockey's race, and some jockey might just say, hey, there's no speed, I'm going to steal this race.
Well, I can tell you who's not going to be on the lead early, and that's Tamarando, one of two in here for Jerry Hollendorfer. But this is a quality racehorse, and Tamarando, I mean, it just jumps off the page, doesn't it, Chuck? This horse is so much better on a synthetic racetrack. He was third behind Shared Belief in the Grade 1 Cash Call Futurity, a huge win in the Real Quiet Stakes, which we're looking at right now. What are you hearing about how he's gone over the surface up there?
He has really just galloped to get used to it and hasn't really worked on it. It's very interesting. Exit Stage Left is trained by Jerry Hollendorfer, was ridden by Russell Bays, is 3 for 3, all 3 wins in stakes. Tamarando sort of is the replacement, as it were, and how would you like to have a barn so deep you can send a Grade 1 winner up as a replacement? But Jerry said that this is a race that they had been considering for Tamarando because it is on the synthetic surface, and he closes so well. He's compromised at Santa Anita, so this was a race they were looking at because down the line they're looking at the Spiral Stakes, which, of course, is also on a synthetic surface.
Yeah, his closing style doesn't really suit Santa Anita. Dance with Fate, to me, Chuck, is the most talented horse in this race. I thought he was the best horse in the Del Mar Futurity. He lost to Tamarando that day. He had a terrible trip. He ran a great second in the front runner. He was part of a pace that was ridiculously quick, so the maiden bondholder took advantage of that, coming off the pace to win. And then he kind of put it all together here in this turf win at Santa Anita in his 3-year-old debut, January 24th. You know, he has problems out of the gate, but do you think he's the most gifted horse in this field?
Well, I can tell you why he won't win the race. Ooh. He won't win the race because he's the horse I picked to win.
Come on, Chuck. Come on.
And as your friend Frank Miramotti will tell you, see who Chuck picks, bet somebody else, make a lot of money.
Oh boy.
He doesn't say chuck it out, does he?
Yeah, he would say that too.
Okay.
I really like Dance with Fate. I think he's coming into this perfectly. you talk about the trouble he had in the Del Mar Futurity. Now, I'm not going to say he was going to be that big a factor in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but he just had no chance from the get-go. He got squeezed back there. He freshened a little bit, comes back, runs a bang-up race in that turf race. And here's the thing. This Tapeta surface plays so nicely to horses coming off the turf. Go back and look at Enterprise's good race up here. That was one coming off the turf. He's coming off the turf with arguably the best race of his career. So I think he's set up and good to go in this one.
All right, Aaron Greider, who had ridden Enterprising last time out, he makes way for Gary Stevens, but he will have the call on Dance with Fate, so he's absolutely in with a live chance. In today's El Camino Real Derby, we've been talking to Chuck Dibdahl, the Daily Racing's Forum Northern California correspondent. Chuck, thanks so much for giving us a couple minutes this morning.
All right, thank you guys. Take care.
We'll talk to you down the road.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that was our first stop on the Kentucky Derby Regional Report. Let's come on down to Southern California, where on Sunday we will see the San Vicente here at Santa Anita. Matt, no points on the line here. What will the 7 furlongs of the San Vicente tell us with regard to the Spring Classics?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a quality field, so whoever wins this race is going to prove they're a pretty good racehorse by beating some other quality 3-year-olds. In terms of what this means down the road and further distances, I don't think it'll be that telling from that standpoint. It's a $200,000 event, though. It's a Grade 2. You don't have Indianapolis, so we talked about a few days ago. A little under the weather, so we'll not go in this race for Bob Baffert. Baffert's still going to have a horse or two in a race like this. Sure. Roger Rocket for him at 9-2. And your favorites towards the outside, Cherubim, who's a very fast racehorse, probably the horse to catch. And then Kobe's back, who we have not seen since a disastrous trip in the Cash Call Futurity.
Yeah, he's the 2-1 morning line favorite. We're looking at his debut victory, this kind of improbable, broke slowly, inhaled the field win in the Willard Proctor. I don't know, Matt, have subsequent events caused us to look back at this race and say, well, maybe it wasn't all that?
Yeah, I don't think it was a great field that he was able to beat, first of all. I think sometimes, again, people get too caught up in, wow, he won a stake race in the first start of his career. Well, a lot of really good, salty, open maiden special events can be better than a little overnight stake race, too. And I think that might have been the case with this win, and people, the way he broke, and they love to see the dead closer.
Sure.
He's a talented racehorse, but I think off of the layoff, with not a lot of pace signed on maybe in this race, he could be up against it at a bit of a short price.
Well, yeah, and look, he was second to Shared Belief in the Grade 3 Hollywood Preview in the second start of his career, but no factor there in a 5-horse field. So look, if he gets bet hard,
he will.
I'd be pleased to take a stand against him. I think there are other interesting horses.
Think the amount of money he cost, the name, Rosario, I think all that will add up to a horse that's about 7-5 post time.
Well, yeah, and for some reason I'm getting a flash of Tap It Rich, a horse that wins that way in the debut and then burns up some cash in subsequent starts.
And did it again the other day.
All right, Northern California, Southern California in the books. We are going to
Hot Springs.
Hot Springs, the site of Oaklawn Park, because they are going to have a Derby prep on Monday. It's the Southwest, and boy, talk about good fields. This is a very intriguing race.
Yeah, it is. You can have a giant field in this race. $300,000 event now, Grade 3, and look at this board. Strong mandate. He's the big name. We'll see Rosario out here aboard Kobe's back Sunday, and we'll see Rosario aboard a favorite again at Oaklawn on Monday in the Southwest. And this horse, who his win in the Hopeful was sensational. His race in the Champagne was not good, but then he came back and did this in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And I think he sort of legitimized his huge performance in the Hopeful by a really good third-place effort, battling the entire way. There he is in third. He's not going to relinquish that position here in the last 16th of a mile. New Year's Day, taking advantage of a 45.5 mile that was set by Strong Mandate, gets through and wins. Freshened up, really good works on paper,
big
Rich.
Works.
48-3, fastest of 78, most recent drill February 2nd.
Dwayne Lucas comes in with your 2-1 morning line favorite. Let's look a little bit further inside. In fact, all the way to the rail, that's where Tapiture will leave. And Tapiture, last seen winning the Grade 2 Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes, going 2 turns on the dirt at Churchill.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on this horse. I think if you get a little bit of a price, then he makes sense. You know, this is obviously a good one. When you win a Grade 2, when you do it by this margin, 4 1/4 lengths, and you do it with a fairly large field of 9, you have to be impressed. The negative for me is I don't know how good this Grade 2 was. Also, the Kentucky Jockey Club. I don't think the horses behind Laddie Boy and Awesome Sky are horses that we'll be hearing a lot from in the upcoming months, the next couple of months as we head towards the Kentucky Derby. So he beat an okay Grade 2, but he did it soundly. And the other thing I like, Rich, is the fact that he showed more ability to rate in that race. He's a horse that tried to go wire to wire 2 back. He sat 5th, so he grew up a bit in that win.
The entry of Tanzanite Cat and Paganal, both trained by Cody Autry. Tanzanite Cat looking for his 3rd in a row, and he won the local setup race for this, taking the Smarty Jones on January 20th. Had the lead, surrendered it, came on again, and scored in a 10-horse field.
Yeah, he's able to come back again for a couple of reasons. Really, he's a quality racehorse, and the pace wasn't that quick, and this is during a period where speed was doing well at Oaklawn. So he had some things going for him in terms of the pace and in terms of the track. But he is 9-1. It's a 10-horse field. He's coming off a maiden score that was off the turf, sprinting at 5.5 in the fairground. So to do this first route race, 3rd start of your career, he's going the right direction, as we like to say. And he's going to make his 3rd start off of a 4+ month layoff in this race on Monday. A price horse that is really interesting to me, real quickly, is Louis Flower in this race.
The winner of the Springboard.
Yeah, at Remington at 22-1. This horse showed the ability to rate. He's a winning machine now. He's won 3 in a row. He's by Flower Alley. He should be able to handle the distance. He's a price horse that I'm intrigued with. That was a big performance in the Springboard against a good field of 12.
Yeah, this is a really great betting race. You can make a case for every single horse in this field, and when we get a hold of Frank Miramati, hopefully a little bit later on today, we'll ask him whether he's got any early insight into this race, and that is going to be the last of the 10-point races. Let's take a look at the point standings, your top 10. We recognize most of these names.
Yeah, and some of them just coming back, honor codes, dealt with some ankle foot issues, but back in training. And bondholder for Doug O'Neill up there. Rise Up for Tom Amos, who I think it was definitely a stakes record in his win of the Delta Jackpot.
And now the poker game or the chess match, you pick your analogy, has begun as among the trainers and the human connections. Who's passing this race? Who's going on to the 50-pointers? Who's going to wait for one last prep in the 100-point races?
And Samrot, the New York bred for Rick Violet, who I think the next time we'll see him will be the Wood Memorial.
Yeah, that was the plan. Now you can get involved in these Kentucky Derby prep races. TVG Players Road to the Kentucky Derby with a grand prize. How would that be?
10,000 free roll on the Derby.
Yeah,
on the Derby.
What you're going to do here is play win, place, and show wagers, across-the-board wagers on designated Derby preps. Go to tvg.com, for njbets.com, and pabets.com for all the information. Get involved with that. It's underway now, and it'll go on through April 12th.
Pretty much guaranteed. There's exceptions to everything, but your favorite's probably going to be 9-2 in the Kentucky Derby. You could bet 10,000 on the favorite who's 9-2.
There you go. And that is today's Kentucky Derby Regional Report. We're going to be stepping away for a commercial timeout. When we return, live racing action. We're just 3 minutes out from the opener at Tampa Bay Downs, 13 minutes till race number 1 at Hialeah.